Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to our Read Aloud time today. So we are reading another chapter from our Sideways stories from Wayside School, and I'm really excited. This chapter is kind of funny. This is Jason. So if you remember last time, the last chapter we read was about Dana. Dana had the glasses. She had mosquito bites. And in order to get her mosquito bites to stop itching, they turned them into math problems, and then they stopped. So let's read about Jason today. Here he is. Oh, Jason. Here we go. Jason had a small face and a big mouth. He had the second biggest mouth in Mrs. Jewell's class, and there were an awful lot of big mouths in that class. Mrs. Jewell's, Jason called without raising his hand, Joy is chewing gum in class. Joy had the biggest mouth in Mrs. Jewell's class, and it was filled with gum. There was hardly even room for her tongue. Joy, I'm ashamed of you, said Mrs. Jewels. I'm afraid I'll have to put your name up on the board. That's okay, Mrs. Jewels, Jason called. I'll do it. Jason hopped out of his seat and wrote Joy's name on the blackboard under the word discipline. While he was up, Joy took the glob of gum out of her mouth and placed it on Jason's chair. Rondi and Allison giggled. Jason walked back from the blackboard to his desk and sat down. Mrs. Jewels, he called again. I'm stuck. Rondi and Allison giggled again. Mrs. Jewels got angry. Joy, you're going home on the kindergarten bus today. Oh, good, said Todd. I'll have some company. Todd, as we know, went home on the kindergarten bus every day. He could never seem to make it to 12 o'clock without getting into trouble 3 times. His name wasn't even up on the blackboard yet, but he knew that by 12 o'clock it would be up, checked, and circled. Mrs. Jewels, what am I going to do? I'm stuck. I'm going to have to stay here the rest of my life, said Jason. Joy, tell Jason you're sorry, said Mrs. Jewels. I'm sorry, Jason, said Joy. Oh, that's okay, Joy. I don't mind, said Jason. Mrs. Jewels asked Jason to try to get up. Jason tried. I can't, Mrs. Jewels. I'm stuck. Mrs. Jewels asked the 3 Erics to help. Eric Fry, Eric Ovens pulled Jason, and Eric Bacon held the chair. Stop! Stop! Cried Jason. You'll rip my pants. Rondi and Allison giggled again. All right, said Mrs. Jewels. Let's try ice water. That should freeze the gum and make it less sticky. I'll go get some from Mrs. Mush. Miss Mush was the lunch teacher at Wayside School. She had the remarkable ability to undercook a dish and overcook it at the exact same time. Her specialty was a nice hot bowl of mud. She called it porridge. Jason looked at Rondi and Allison. No, Mrs. Jewels, he said. Don't leave me. Besides, Miss Mush's ice water is probably warm. Don't be silly, Jason, said Mrs. Jewels. I'm sure it will be at least cold as her soups. Rondi and Allison leered at Jason. No, Mrs. Jewels, don't go, begged Jason. I'll be right back, Jason, said Mrs. Jewels. She went to Miss Mush for some ice water. As soon as Mrs. Jewels stepped out the door, Rondi and Allison jumped up from their seats and started to tickle Jason. He laughed until his hair turned purple. The girls got back to their seats just as Mrs. Jewels returned. Mrs. Jewels carried a big bucket of ice-cold water. Oh, no, please don't, no, Jason pleaded. We have no choice, said Mrs. Jewels, and she threw the water all over him. Well, said Mrs. Jewels, try to get up. Jason was drenched. I'm wet and I'm cold and still stuck. Oh, well, it didn't work, said Mrs. Jewels. At least we tried. Now I guess we'll have to cut your pants off. Rondi and Allison really giggled. No, Mrs. Jewels, no, Jason screamed. I don't mind being stuck here. I'm really very comfortable. Don't be silly, Jason, said Mrs. Jewels. But don't cut off my pants, said Jason. The 3 Erics can carry you to the bathroom, said Mrs. Jewels. I'll ask Louis to call your mother and she can bring you a new pair of pants. The 3 Erics took hold of Jason's chair and turned him upside down. No, Mrs. Jules, said Jason. Now I'll always have a place to sit down. I don't want to have to worry about finding a seat on the bus. The three Erics began to take him away. Wait, said Joy. Mrs. Jules, if I can get Jason unstuck, do I still have to go home on the kindergarten bus? All right, said Mrs. Jules. If you can somehow get Jason free, you don't have to go home early. Don't trust her, Mrs. Jules, said Jason. He was still hanging upside down. I'll just kiss him, said Joy. No, Jason screamed. Don't let her kiss me, Mrs. Jules. You can throw water on me and tickle me and cut off my pants, hang me upside down from the ceiling, but don't let her kiss me. I'll just kiss him on the nose, said Joy. Ooh, we've got nothing to lose, Jason, said Mrs. Jules. Ooh, we would want to kiss Jason, said Allison. Jason hung helplessly upside down. Joy stepped up and kissed him on the nose. And Jason fell out of his chair and hit his head on the floor. Rondi and Allison giggled. Darn, said Todd. Now I'll have to go home alone again. And Joy erased her name from the blackboard. And that is our chapter on Jason. Kind of reminds me of our problem that we read about Pablo being stuck to his chair last week. All right, tomorrow we will read about Rondi. All right, see you then.